So I'm going to record this for the students that are absent. You need the papers that I emailed your parents. You got to print those out. And then you need 2 pieces of lined paper. So everybody in class right now has that. But if you're watching the video, make sure your parent checks their email and prints what you're going to work on today in class. And then 2 pieces of lined paper and then a pen or a pencil. So we were just talking about the 2 parts of the language arts test. The first part is going to be multiple choice where you're answering questions. The second part is going to be writing. And like I said last week, some of the questions you'll only write maybe 1 or 2 sentences. Some you might write a whole paragraph, but there's going to be part of the assignment where they want you to write an essay. And for you guys, that's 3 paragraphs. Okay, you're going to write 3 paragraphs about something and you won't know what it is until you sit down to take the test. But there are 3 different types of essays that you might be, styles that you might be writing about. And I'm going to put this on your Google Classroom so you can print this or go over it with your parents. These are the styles of essays. One style is called opinion essays. And that's when you express an opinion about something. So it's what you think, okay? Like if I were to say, which is a better pet, cats or dogs? Some of you might say cats are better than dogs. And some of you might say dogs are better than cats. It's up to you. It's what you think. That's an opinion. And then these are the types of words that you would use in that essay, like my opinion is, I believe, I think. Those are the types of words you would use in that essay. Opinions. I'm going to send this to you on Google Classroom so you can have it. So don't look for this now. You don't have it in your packet. Okay. This is going to be something I send you. And then there's informational / explanatory essays. I see information, like the beginning of information on informative, and then I see explain in explanatory. So that's what that type of essay is. It's when you explain something, something factual, like when you guys wrote about deserts and desert reptiles. Those are facts about real things. That's what you write for informative explanatory essays. The narrative essays, those are the stories that you make up with characters and setting. Remember, we did the story sequence chart? That's that type of an essay where you're making up a story and a problem and a conflict, and then how they solve their problem and that part, like the story sequence chart. So those are the 3 styles of essays that you might have. And I don't know which one you're going to get, but the most common one I've noticed is this one, the informative explanatory essay. So we're going to practice this one today. That's the one you printed or your mom printed for you. Any questions about, I'm not reading these because most of you are in these grades here, 3 through 5. So those are the ones that you might have. If you're in older grades, there's a couple other different ones down here, but okay, let's look at, actually, let's set up your scratch paper. Go ahead and get your 2 pieces of lined paper out next. You don't need to put your name on these because this is for you. Like when you sit down to take the test, they're going to let you have blank paper and a pen or a pencil, and that's it. So you're going to set up a checklist for yourself, a homemade checklist. I know you have lots of them in your binder, but you can't use those for the test. So the first thing you're going to write down is dress ups. I know we practiced this last week. So let's see if you can remember what's on your checklist right now. Think about the things that you use in your writing and make a little list. See how many you can remember. Making a little homemade checklist here. Abby?
Who, which class?
Good, that's one. Let's put that down. Who, which. What else, Eliana?
LY adverb.
Good. ly adverb. And it's okay if they're in a different order. That doesn't matter. Sydney, can you remember one from your dress ups?
Quality adjective.
Very good. Quality, adjective. Did you think of a different one, Abby?
Strong verb.
Good. Yes. Strong verb. And there's one more if you can remember what it is. Do you remember, Eliana? Oops, you're muted.
Yeah, I think I do. Is it an adverb clause?
No, it starts with a B. Abby?
Because clause.
Yes, I saw Sydney raise your hand too. Is that what you were going to say, Sydney? Good. Yep, you got it. Because. So we've got who, which, ly adverb, quality adjective, strong verb, because clause. And just for fun, next to that, let's do three little boxes. We're making our own little checklist here. And it's okay to do this when you sit down to take your test, because this is all in your brain. You're just making a little homemade checklist for yourself. The reason why I want you to do this is because if you use some of these words in each paragraph, your score will just go really high for writing. They want to see that you know how to use these words. And you do, because we use them all the time in class. Okay, good job, you guys. So, and we're going to leave this as on a separate paper like this. Go ahead and go to your second piece of paper now. And on this one, we're going to set up your keyword outline. And like I said, one of your questions is going to require an essay. And you're going to do 3 paragraphs. So go ahead and put Roman numeral 1, 1 through 5, Roman numeral 2, 1 through 5, and Roman numeral 3, 1 through 5. Okay, thumbs up when you got that set. Okay, good. I see that. Good. Got it? Okay, good. Now let's go to the papers that your mom printed for you guys. This is all on the computer, by the way. So I printed it. You guys printed it. It's on paper. But when you sit down to take the test, it's all going to be on the computer. How many of you have ever done the state test before? Did you do it last year? Yeah? Oh, good. Okay. So maybe you kind of remember a little bit about it, but
I did the state testing in public school.
okay. Same thing. It's going to be the same. So the way it's going to work for you guys, because now you're Heartland students, um, except for Abby, you're with a different school, but I think it's going to be the same style for you, that you have somebody watching you take the test, but you actually take it from home. So it's a Zoom call like this. And then they set it up for you to be able to get going on the test. But everything's on the computer. So you're going to need to know how to scroll through stuff. And you're going to need to know the different buttons, the different tools that you have available to you on the test. So what I recommend is sometime before you take the test, sit down with your parent, one of your parents, and log into the practice test that I emailed them. And you're going to see different tools that you can use on the test. So play around with it, see what it's like, how to use different things. You might have like a highlighter tool. You might have like this clipboard is a little note-taking tool, but I recommend you use your paper for that because it's so much easier. You have it right in front of you. And then the little book up here is like a dictionary. So some of the words you can look up in the dictionary on there, and you might even have extra tools. So You're not going to mess anything up by just clicking and checking things out and see how things go and how to type in the box and all that stuff. So it's good practice to get familiar with it. But I printed it, or you guys printed it. This is what it's going to look like on the screen. So it says student directions, and it says animals and their surroundings, informational performance task. This is the big essay. And here it says task, and you want to read that part first. So I'll read it. You guys can follow along on your page. Your school's science fair is taking place soon. Your class has decided to focus on doing science projects about animals. You become interested in learning more about where animals live. You have found 3 sources about this topic in the school library. So that's a little bit about what you're going to be writing about is animals and um, where they live, right? And that next paragraph is explaining how the test is broken up. On the day of the test, you want to read everything, but for the sake of time today, I'm going to skip some things that aren't as important to know. And the first part will be answering multiple choice questions. So now I want you to skip to the back of this packet, not the last page, but the second to the last page, where you see part 2, not source 2, but part 2. See if you can find that page. It's like second to the last. It says part 2 right here. Okay, I see that. Thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up when you find it. Part 2. It's toward the back of the packet. I don't know if you have it stapled or not. That's okay if you don't. Did you find it, Eliana? Part 2? Sydney, did you find yours? Okay. It's probably toward the last page. Okay, look at part 2. Like I said, part 2 is the essay part. And then it says right here, you will now review your notes and sources and plan, draft, revise, and edit your writing. You may use your notes and go back to the sources. Now read your assignment and the information about how your writing will be scored, and then begin your work. So this part right here, where it says your assignment, that's really important to read first when you sit down to do the writing part of the test. So you'll want to scroll through till you find part 2 and find out what they want you to write about. Okay. It's okay if you need to go advance forward and then find this because you want to know what they want from you. And it says, your teacher wants each student to write an informational article that will be displayed with your science fair project. You decide to write about animals and where they live. So it's just telling you those are the 2 things you're going to focus on in your paper, animals and where they live. Your article will be read by other students, teachers, and parents. And then there's more information here. You don't really need to go into that right now and how they score it. Don't worry about that right now. So you need to know exactly what your assignment is, though, and you're writing about animals and where they live. Okay, that's what you're going to focus on. So now go back to the beginning again, this page where you see the little icons at the top here. And we're going to start reading, and you're going to see where it says source number 1. And you're going to read this source, and then we're going to take some notes on our keyword outline. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you just so that we can read it at the same time. So you guys follow along on your paper, and I'll just read it to you, okay? Living creatures survive in all types of environments. Each environment creates different challenges for animals that live there. Some living creatures survive at the bottom of the sea where it is dark as night and very cold. Other plants and animals live in dry, hot environments. People can use tools like flashlights or fans to help them survive. Animals and plants, however, must rely on nature to help them survive. Okay, it's like an introduction paragraph. We're talking a little bit about humans and people, talking a little bit about plants and a little bit about animals. But remember, your focus is animals and where they live. So we don't see anything yet. We're going to keep reading. Okay. Near the South Pole in Antarctica, it is very cold. We know about Antarctica, huh? That's familiar. It is usually about minus 57 degrees Fahrenheit. What water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, so Antarctica is much colder than ice. Scientists live at the South Pole, but they live in buildings with thick walls and heating. What do animals do? Okay, we don't really know about any animals yet, but I think we will soon. The next paragraph says, some animals have bodies that help them live in the cold. The ice fish. Okay, here we go. The first animal that's really mentioned here is the ice fish. The ice fish lives in water so cold that even in summer, chunks of ice continue to float in the water. How do ice fish keep from freezing? The only way ice fish can survive in this, the next page, extreme environment, this is the page with the little cactus here, is because they have a special substance in their blood that keeps ice crystals from forming inside their bodies. Interesting. Penguins, hey, we know about those guys. Penguins have thick layers of fat or blubber to help them stay warm, but sometimes even that is not enough. Often penguins must rely on each other for survival. They cuddle up together as close as they can to share their body heat. Another area that can be hard to live is the dry, hot desert. People who live in the desert often wear special clothes to protect them from the heat. When they build homes, they have air conditioners to keep them cool, and to find water, they dig wells that provide water from deep in the ground. How do animals survive in the hot, dry conditions? Many desert animals come out only at night when it is cool. Snakes, lizards, mice, and squirrels live in burrows. During the day, they stay under the ground and out of the sun. In the hot Sonoran Desert of Arizona, an owl lives in a nest and that sits on a tall cactus. The cactus stems store water. Rain doesn't fall often in the Sonoran Desert, but when it does, it falls quickly and heavily. Then the water quickly flows away. The cactus has roots that spread out only inches below the surface of the soil. The roots are like a big sponge, soaking up rainwater fast. Now the cactus can store water for months, and the owl has a nice home high up in the cactus. And there's a picture. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I want my home on a cactus. Seems a little uncomfortable, but not for the owl. He's figured it out. And I'm going to keep going right here. There's one more or a couple little paragraphs here. The ocean has very different challenges from those of the desert. The deepest part of the ocean are very dark and cold because the sun's rays are unable to shine through all the layers of the water. Some of the very deepest parts of the ocean have thermal vents on the ocean floor that are like little volcanoes under the sea. The water comes out of the vents. The water coming out of the vents is very hot. Crabs survive at the bottom of the sea by scurrying around the vents looking for food. Arctic chill, desert sun, and cold pitch dark oceans, these are difficult conditions that could be hard for people to survive, but nature gives plants and animals the ability to live almost anywhere. And then this is just sources used. You don't really need this information here. It's just telling you where they found all those facts, okay? And that's the end of source 1. And you can see right here, source number 2. And you're going to notice there's 3 sources altogether. So what we're going to do on our outline in the margin is put source number 1 next to Roman numeral 1 on the margin side. And then we're going to put source number 2. And then next to 3, we're going to put source number 3. It's going to be easy to break this up, and you will have 3 sources. Okay. If you happen to have 4 sources, you would do a Roman numeral 4 here and call this one source 4. I think you're only going to have 3 though for your grade level, so that's why we're practicing this one. Source number 1, source number 2, source number 3. Okay. Source number 1 was talking about a few different animals. Remember, your topic is, or your subject for your paper is animals and where they live. So that's what we're going to start writing about. And really, you're not going to be able to write about everything. Remember, you're summarizing. We're only telling some of the information. So don't feel like you got to tell everything. You're only going to pick some. And we learned about ice fish, and we learned about penguins, and we learned about owls, and even a little bit about crabs in the ocean. So there's several different animals to choose from, and you're just going to start making notes about your animals. I'm going to start with the ice fish. I thought that was interesting about their blood, how they have something special about their blood to keep their blood from freezing. And then I might pick a couple other animals. So for me, I'm going to start with Antarctica because that's what's mentioned first in that source. From here in Antarctica, there were 2 different animals they talked about, the ice fish and the penguins. So you can pick which one you want to talk about as part of this paragraph. I'm going to pick ice fish, but if you pick penguins, that's okay. You pick whatever you want to write about on this one. And I'm going to just put that word cold because it's cold. I think it said negative minus 57 degrees. So I'm just going to put minus 57. And I know the degree symbol is like that little tiny O right there. That's really cold. We talked about that a little bit when you wrote your paper on Antarctica a couple weeks ago. So whatever animal you picked here, tell one more thing about how it lives in that environment. For me, I'm writing about ice fish. I like that part about the blood. It's interesting to me. And it said something about special substance in their blood that keeps ice crystals from forming inside their bodies. So I might say something like special blood, and then I might put crystals here and then circle it and draw a line through it. If you like that idea, you can copy mine. If you wanted to write about the penguins, that's okay too. So I'm going to give you some time to work by yourself for a couple minutes here. And you pick another animal that you read about in that source 1 and put where they live, the name of the animal, where they live, and how they live there. So you're going to need 2 different numbers to use for another animal. Okay. So work on this part by yourself. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll just give you a couple minutes to work by yourself. Do you know what to do, Sydney? Okay. Which one did you pick, Abby? What did you write about?
I'm gonna do the owl.
Okay. Yeah, and that's okay to mix them up too, because I know the owl is kind of at the end, but you can mix it up. So go ahead and write about where the owl lives. I think it mentions the Sonoran Desert or Arizona. And then something about the cactus and the nest there. That's good. Eliana.
I wrote about the penguin.
Mm-hmm. Good. Did you already finish the two? The two numbers? Did you do Roman numeral one and regular one about the penguin?
I thought Roman numeral 2 was supposed to be like the other animal.
No. So Roman numeral two. So that's how we're setting this up for
Oh, I
the.
meant number 2 and number numeral 1.
Oh, okay. Yes. Number two is a separate, another animal. So yes, if you put penguins here for two, that's good. And then something else about it for number three. Does that make sense? Okay. And then if you're done with those two, you can pick the third animal. I'll give you one more minute. Sydney, I know it's kind of hard to work while you're getting your hair done, but looks like you're doing fine. Remember, don't go ahead on the next source. You're only staying on source one for Roman numeral one. Sydney?
I need to leave.
Okay, Sydney. Have a great day. I'll see you next week, okay? Your
Okay,
homework is
bye.
going to be to finish this and write your paragraphs, okay? Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, go ahead and finish up the one you're working on. And then we're going to move on to the source two. Yes, Abby?
Can I tell you what I did?
Yeah, definitely.
I did Sonoran Desert AZ Owl.
Good.
And I did the exact same thing you did for the third thing.
Nest, high, and cactus. Oh, cool. Okay. That's a good one. Awesome. So we're going to leave. It's okay if you're not done with all five. We'll come back to this, but I want to make sure we have time to read the next two sources. So go ahead and finish up the word you're on, Eliana, and then we're going to move on to source two. Okay. Source two actually starts at the very bottom of that page with the owl. The article is called Animal Architects. And then you're going to turn to the next page. It looks like this. This is where the actual article starts on this page. Okay. And this right here is a picture of a termite mound. And we're going to learn a little bit about termites. Those are insects. So it's like it's like a picture of if you were to cut the mound in half and look inside of it, that's how it would look. I was just wanting to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to jump up to the top of that page. It said, everybody needs a home. Homes protect us from weather and keep us safe and comfortable. Animals are no exception. Humans live in a wide variety of structures. Around the world, people have designed and built their homes to suit their particular needs and ways of life. Animals do the same. In addition to making living spaces, people and animals both build other structures, bridges, dams, traps, and storage areas. These structures help people and animals survive. People and animals both use different materials and methods for their constructions. They build with wood, weave with fibers and vines, dig into the earth, and mold out of mud. From sky-high nests to elaborate or fancy tunnels, the amazing works of animal architects or building designers rival those of the greatest human engineers. Let's take a look at some. So again, this is like an introduction to this. Now we're going to get into the animals here. So that's what you're focusing on. Beavers build lodges along the banks of lakes and ponds. Using branches they chew apart themselves, beavers begin to build a cone-shaped frame, building a cone-shaped frame. Then they fill in the gaps with mud and leaves. The entrance to the lodge is always at the bottom, underwater, so beavers can come and go without being seen by predators. In addition to their lodges, beavers build dams. Water builds up behind the dams, creating flooded areas that are ideal places for beavers to find food. The flooded areas also provide pools for other wildlife. Termites build 20-foot high mounds of dirt and their own saliva. I just had to stop there for a second because 20 feet, I mean, these aren't like little baby ant hills. This is like ginormous. I don't think these are in California. They must be in other countries, but 20 feet is like the your house size, like the top of your roof size. I can't imagine seeing a mound that big, but I guess they build them that big. And you know, the saliva, we talked about that with the, remember Gray's Monitor has the poison in their saliva. It's the wet part of your mouth. You know, that's what they use with dirt to build these things. It's crazy. So termites that we have are like ant size, right? Maybe like a queen ant size. They're little, but I think these termites are like, I don't know, gargantuan. I don't think I want to meet one. Anyway, I'm going to keep going. Where am I here? Okay. These giant structures are like small apartment buildings. Besides living there, these towers have food storage areas, nurseries for baby termites, a special chamber for the king and queen, and even gardens. A chamber is like a room. So they built this like a whole, almost like a city inside. It's crazy. And then I'm going to jump down to this paragraph down here. It says wombats. Have you ever heard of a wombat before? Yeah. Okay. Wombats dig huge underground burrows that can be 100 feet long. Wombat tunnels are elaborate, with many entrances, side tunnels, and resting chambers. Inside the burrow, sleeping nests are built on raised platforms to keep them dry in case of flooding. Often several burrows are connected, creating structures so huge they can actually be seen from space. I don't know how they see it from space if it's underground, but okay, they have a way, I guess. Interesting stuff. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. There's a little bit more. And it's the page with the picture of the wombat. That's a wombat. They're cute. And now we're going to talk about bald eagles. That's another animal we can write about. Bald eagles build massive nests, 4 to 5 feet across and 3 to 6 feet deep. High in tall trees, they use their beaks and amazingly strong talons or claws to break branches and twigs for nest material. Like beavers, eagles begin by building a stick frame. Then they weave in smaller branches and twigs for added strength and protection. Finally, eagles line their nests with grasses and other soft material to make them comfy. Take a look around you. You may find other examples of amazing animal architecture. And then it's just talking about the sources there. And by the way, there's something like really popular on the internet right now. I haven't looked at it yet, but there's like, I think it's in Big Bear or somewhere in California. There's an eagle nest. Have you heard about that? And they're watching the babies come out of their eggs and stuff. Have you guys seen it?
I think my mom was just talking about it like yesterday.
I haven't seen it, but I heard about it. Abby, how about you?
The bald eagles' names are Jackie and Shadow.
Oh my
And
goodness.
they had three chicks, but when the bad weather came, I'm pretty sure they one chick died in the snow.
Oh, that's kind of sad. Aw. Now, are they in Big Bear? Is that what where they are, or do you know?
Yeah, I think so. I don't
Yeah.
really focus on where they live, but
Yeah.
my mom sometimes does just some show me little clips from the babies and the mom and the dad feeding them.
That's so cute. And it's like a live cam, so you can like have it, you check in on them every once in a while, and that's pretty cool. That's something that's like really popular to do right now. So you can check with your parents if they want it, if they'll let you see some of that. It's pretty cool to see them actually in nature. Okie doke, going back to our KWO here. We're going to focus now on source two. We just finished source two, so the information you read there goes here. And you're going to, instead of putting the topic right here, we're just going to focus on animals and where they live. That's the main focus. So you're going to mix them up inside here in this keyword outline. You have lots to choose from. Actually, we talked a little bit about beavers and we talked about termites, wombats, and bald eagles. So you're not going to write about all of them because you're only telling some information. So you can decide which one you want to start with and make sure you include where they live. Yes, Abby?
I have a question. On the termites it says like it doesn't say where they live.
That's true, like as far as like the country or where they are, that's true. But it does talk about they live in the dirt. So it doesn't tell exactly what country, but you can talk about their homes that they build. That would work. Also, because the termites is pretty interesting. I'm writing about that one too. If you need to use three, because I like the part about the king and queen and the garden and everything. So I might use three numbers for the termites since there's a lot of information there. And that's okay if you want to do that too. Go ahead and finish up the words that you're on. I want to make sure we have time for the third source. It's okay if you don't get all the way to 5 yet. And it's okay if you want to copy some of mine. I just wrote down some too, but you can do your own. I put bald and then EAG for bald eagle. So I didn't have to use that word because it's two separate words. Okay, awesome. Let's go on to source number 3. That's going to be on the same page as the wombat right here. Don't step in that ecosystem. Have you guys heard of ecosystem before? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, we're going to find out what that is. So this article I know is a little bit different. It's going to talk about some animals, but it's mostly focusing on the ecosystem, which does include animals and where they live. So we're gonna figure out how to incorporate that in our keyword outline. It says, the next time you go out, take a careful look around. Maybe you see a small pond. Plants might be growing in the pond, birds might take baths in it, and if you're lucky, the pond might even be a home to tadpoles. Any place where plants and animals live and interact or work together with non-living things like water or air, water, and soil is called an ecosystem. The plants and animals in an ecosystem need each other to survive. It is important that there is a balance among all things in the ecosystem. A small change in any part of an ecosystem can have a big effect. For example, if the food that an animal eats can no longer be found, then that animal will either die or have to leave that ecosystem. When that animal is no longer a part of the ecosystem, then the rest of the living and non-living parts of the ecosystem are affected because all parts of the ecosystem depend on each other. All parts of an ecosystem are connected to each other. Think about an oak tree in the forest. It is a home to the bugs and birds that live in its bark and branches, and to the squirrels who make their nests in its trunk. The oak tree also provides food to other animals in the ecosystem. When its acorns are ripe, they fall to the forest floor. These rich nuts, page here, are good food for the mice, deer, and the deer that eat them to fatten up for the winter. This is the same page that says part 2 on it. So, you guys find it? Okay. Mice save the acorns so that they have food in the winter months. And in the spring, hawks swoop down looking for a mouse meal. In a way, the oak tree helps the hawk find its food. This is an example of how plants and animals in an ecosystem work together in order to survive. Now think of the ocean. Imagine diving into the deep blue water. Near the surface, you see a rocky ridge of coral called a coral reef. The reef is home to many plants and animals. For example, sea plants move back and forth in the current, and fish come to feed or hide from other living things that can harm them. Coral reefs, in fact, are home to about 1/4 of all the fish in the sea. Reefs also attract birds, whales, turtles, and seals. The number and many different types of animals that depend on coral reefs make them one of the most important ecosystems in the world. There are many different kinds of ecosystems, and they can be very small, like a pond, or very big, like a coral reef's ecosystem. Ecosystems are everywhere. And then those are the sources. And here's a definition of ecosystem: an area where plants, animals, and other living things live and depend on each other for survival. So this one's going to be a little bit different because we do see animals mentioned in there, not so much like their homes, but how the animals survive in the ecosystem. So really, source 3, and we're all going to put this, is about the ecosystem. Okay, so we need that word in there. And what are 2 words we can put with ecosystem to kind of help define what ecosystems are? Can you guys think of that? Eliana, what do you think?
Living or something?
Living, maybe, yeah. What do you think, Abby?
And non-living?
Living and non-living, yeah. I think the word together, I'm almost wondering about putting something like plants and animals together. I know that's 3 more words, but because they work together. That's the interesting thing, like the oak tree, right? That's a plant, basically, it's a tree, but it provides food for smaller animals like mice, and then that provides food for the hawk. So you can decide what words to use here. I'm going to put plants, and I'm going to just do AN for animals, and then together. But if you have a different way of putting that, you put what you want to put, okay? We're basically defining what an ecosystem is. And then for me, I really liked the part about the oak tree. I live in Tehachapi, and I know you guys, I know Eliana does. Um, and we have a lot of oak trees here. So I thought that was interesting about how animals that live in the tree, but then the tree provides food for other animals that provide food for other animals. So for me, I'm going to talk about the oak tree. So I'm going to put oak, and then I'm going to draw a little tree here. And I'm going to put, I'm probably going to use 2 lines for this because the oak tree, there's bugs and birds that live in it. And birds. And then I might say something about the acorn, mice, and then the hawk. So that's how it works together. So even though this is a little bit different, we're talking about their food and stuff, but we're also talking about their homes. It's all connected in this ecosystem. Now you can put what I put, or you can put something different. Other ecosystems like the ocean, you can talk about that next. I'm going to give you time to work on the last little bit here. You can talk about the ocean, or the pond was the other ecosystem they talked about. So I'll give you another minute or so to work on that. Okay. You can keep going. Actually, you have a couple more minutes. Okay, go ahead and finish up the word you're working on. And obviously, what you would do after you complete reading all the sources and writing down your keywords, you're going to use that to write your paragraphs and make sure to include your homemade dress up list here in each paragraph because these words will really help your score improve on the writing test. Now, you both are excellent writers. So when you have time, you make time during the test. There's something that goes at the beginning, the very beginning, that's called an introduction. So just put this word up here, introduction. And you're just going to write a couple sentences introducing your paper. Like there are many interesting animals that live in different places, something like an introduction to what you're about to tell them. Okay. And then at the end, there's something called a conclusion. And I know in class, we have not done much of this yet. That's okay. The main part of your essay are these three big paragraphs here. Okay. But you can also include an introduction that talks about what you're going to share about these animals. Like there are lots of animals that live in different places. And then your conclusion can say something like, these are all the different animals that live in different areas, and something about how they work together with plants and for the ecosystem. A conclusion to kind of wrap up what you just said. Like I said, these are the main parts of your essay. You've got that down, and then you can just do a little introduction and a little conclusion, and you guys are going to do great on this. So right in the margin here, just put 3 sentences. I'm going to have you just write that here, 3 cent for sentences, 3 sentences. And up here by introduction, do that too, 3 cent, 3 sentences. So for your homework, I want you to write the 3 main paragraphs. And then if you have time, you can add 3 sentences for an introduction and 3 sentences for a conclusion at the end. Okay. That's your homework this week to practice this test. This is a practice test. You guys have any questions? So when you go back and finish these outlines, remember, only use source 1 for this one. Only use source 2 for this one. Only use source 3 for this one. Okay, stick to the same source. All right, you guys, good job today. Excellent. You're going to do great on the test whenever it happens. And I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. See you next week.
See you next week.